Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 191 of Sports Management Podcast. Today's guest is Jan Wendt, the co-founder and CEO of Plaier AI. We spoke about how Plaier AI got a database of over 300,000 players, how their AI system works, how it is beneficial for teams, players, scouts, coaches, etc., expanding outside of football, the future of Plaier AI, and much more. Jan Wendt, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you very much for the invite.
It's great to have you on the show. You are the founder and co-founder and CEO of Plaier AI. So can you give us a brief overview of your role and what is Plaier AI?
Yeah, Plaier AI is an analysis software to basically measure and predict football. Football is the sport we've started with. And we thought that we have to predict a lot of things, but we found out that measuring football is probably at this stage the more important part of it.
And why? How did you come to that conclusion? And what is so important to measure, and what exactly do you measure?
Well, we measure basically the strength of a squad. So we can tell you, and that's probably the most important information we can provide a club with. We measure if the squad is strong enough to reach the sporting goals, and how that correlates with the coach's performance. So we measure how good is a squad and how well does a coach perform. Does he over or underperform? So where are the reasons for either you are where you would like to be or you're not where you like to be. So that's the core of the product as of today.
Is this for teams to know when they are scouting players to see how they are performing? And so, like, who are the main customer of this product?
Well, it's the bread and butter business, as we say. It comes from clubs in third and second leagues who want to be promoted because obviously that's the easiest challenge on our side. We can almost guarantee a promotion to a higher league because we know exactly what you have to do. And once you follow that, then the success rate is measurable. Obviously, 100%. We are in statistics here, 100%, or in mathematics, 100% is not realistic, but we are coming very close to the 100%. And then we have the business in usually in the first leagues in each country where you do not want to be relegated or you want to qualify for in Europe for the European cups, in other countries for their respective continental cups, and that's the second big part of our business is to make sure that you will not be relegated or you receive the European cups, which obviously enhance your financial situation quite a lot.
I understand that. I mean, you're having a huge database. You're covering over, I think, 300,000 players from 200 plus countries, I read, and you started only in May 2023. So how have you been able to collect such a big database in such a small time?
Right. I wish there was a big secret, but we're just buying everything we can get our hands on. So basically, there are a handful of data providers out there. You have different data in football or different data sets in football. Football is a very, very well covered sport. You have a lot of games, you have a lot of players. So we basically cover. We buy everything we can get. So that's the whole miracle behind it. And obviously, we know how to handle this data because getting a data set from Japan or from Central Africa or from somewhere else in the world is one thing, but to correlate it and to put it into correlation is another thing. But just getting the data is quite simple. You just have to buy it.
Okay, so you buy it. You don't collect it so much yourself, but rather buying it.
Yeah, we are starting to collect data now because obviously there is some parts and data missing around the globe, which is essential for us. So we make visible what is missing, and then we take care of that ourselves. And there are a lot of players or potential players and a lot of leagues not being covered yet, which we also make visible that might be interesting to cover them. So we start to enter that business, but the majority of the data is available.
So if we look at the programs you're using, like the technology, it's really fast and can make with the AI. So not too technical, but a little bit. How does the technology behind this work?
Yeah. So first of all, I think your audience, as most of us, are having we're getting their first glimpse of AI by using ChatGPT or something like ChatGPT or other Gen AI tools, may it be in graphics or in usually the large language models. So the area we are in is called AI-based data science. So in data science, you process large amounts of data. You need a lot of data to be able to see what we are talking about now. So you merge this data and you let AI tools find correlations in that data. So basically, this process is determined by two major steps. One is that the question or the problem you want to solve or the question you would like to get answered, you have to put this into a mathematical model. That's the first step. And the second step is that you have to find the right AI tool. These are mathematically defined. So there are around 300, 350 tools out in the market, in the shelf. Everyone can have access to it. And you have to connect the data set with this model, the problem-solving model, and the AI tool. And we've automated this process. So this is something we do not 100%, but mostly automate. And the second part is we are also in other areas. So we're not just working in football. We belong to a group called Effector. And we are also doing stuff in aviation or in hospitality or in medicine. So we have a great routine in using AI tools. We are probably one of the most experienced companies around the globe, in this AI-based data science field. So it's basically, the secret is that we do everything very fast, very efficient, and very accurate. So that's the secret behind there.
I understand. I read somewhere that like you compared it to like a supercomputer, like NASA's supercomputer. Is that the type of efficiency that this technology has?
Yeah, you can reach good results in these large databases. You can reach good results mainly through two things: processing power. So which means the larger the computer and the more powerful the computer is, the more things it can do in parallel and the more answers you can create. And the second part is to be very efficient in it. And if you combine both, so scalable computer power and very efficient usage of data and very efficient engine as we have, then you even outperform the other supercomputers from time to time.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned that you're in some other fields as well, but if we focus on sports, it's obviously in football. Is there any idea to, go into other sports as well?
Yeah, we have the prototypes ready. So we have ice hockey ready, we have basketball ready. It's just a question, we require some kind of know-how in that sport, because ice hockey, for example, you change the lines from time to time. You have always inconsistency on the field. So football is we would love to go to American football, because obviously it's the pot is the biggest in terms financially, but you have only a few games and you only have a few clubs. So when you do the evaluation, football, in terms of the foundation, in terms of data, you have a lot of data because a lot of games are played, a lot of leagues, a lot of players. You have a lot of data, and obviously commercially, you have a lot of clubs and fans around the world. So it makes sense to concentrate on football. But again, prototypes for basketball and ice hockey are in the shelf, and we just have to fill it with data. We just don't have the time, because the success in football is so overwhelming that we didn't have the time to really bring it onto the road.
I understand that, but an interesting development may be ahead there with the basketball, football, American football, and ice hockey, perhaps.
Yeah, it's the same. The huge. We deliver a lot of answers which are right now are just guessings. And how many people are going into tip. I don't know the English term, when you bet on a season, or you do a manager game or stuff like that. So there's a high insecurity within a team. I'm sure this came across you personally. If you ask a sporting director of a football club what is required to go from Championship to Premier League, or what is required from Bundesliga 2 to Bundesliga 1 to be promoted. So what kind of players do you need? And then you get from 10 different sporting directors, you get 10 different answers, which is absolutely good and correct because they all have their own, backpack of experiences. And we bring light to this. So we can precisely say, this player is good enough and he will make you stronger. And this is how it makes you stronger. This is how good you are. If you do, get these 5 additional players, you will improve here and here and here. And then you will qualify for the European Cups, just to give a brief example. And we can do this in basketball. And, in basketball, you see these typical draft situations where you have especially in American football, where you have a huge mismatch between the picks and then the actual performance on the pitch, and we can change that. It's just a question of opportunities, and the opportunities in football are just way bigger than anywhere else.
Yeah. Do you have any success stories or examples where your tool has predicted something that proved true?
Yeah, so you can divide that in 2 different areas. So in the things we publish, and then in the things we really did as a work experience. Now let's start with the last first. In the work experience, we have the problem that we do not want to in this early stage. We do not publish clubs because number one, the club would be under the microscope. And second, I think we would take a lot of the success away from the sporting directors in this early phase. I don't want any of our customers being seen as you are only as good because of AI, because that's not the case. We're just a tool, and in the end, there's 1 or 2 people taking the decisions, and they are responsible for the success of a club, no matter what kind of software or AI tool or whatever they hired. I mean, no one is talking about the scouts finding great players. It's always about the sporting directors. And I think this should remain. But I can say that every club who worked with us in League 2, in Germany, for example, just to give you some examples, has been promoted to League 1. And then on the first part, on the media side, our most known example is that we predicted that Harry Kane will not make a impact on the a positive impact on the goal difference of Bayern Munich. Or we predicted that when he's leaving Tottenham, all the values in Tottenham are going up. We predicted that Olise will be the strongest transfer for Bayern Munich, which at the beginning of the season didn't really look like it, but now it's been recognized that he's one of the probably best players in the world. And so, yeah, there are a lot of examples, but unfortunately some we can't or do not want to publish.
I understand that, but really interesting case with Harry Kane, and I mean, there's
indeed.
so much. It's so much to take into consideration, to predict someone's performance when you have all the mental side, and maybe he's, on paper he looks really good, but there are other factors that plays in that means that he does not play as well.
It's, for me, the most fascinating thing, because obviously I'm not coming from football. I'm coming from motor racing, and in motor racing, every tenth of a second we were chasing. So we were hungry for or we had to improve on a daily basis, because once the stopwatch is on again, you see if you work well or not. So we were really hungry for every performance increase we could get. Now in football, there are some rules out there which have been there for decades. And one rule is you have to have a striker which is capable of, scoring a certain amount of goals. But when you look into it, the season before Haaland came in Manchester City, the season they scored more goals than the season with Haaland. So it's not so obvious. And when Lewandowski was at Bayern Munich, who broke probably an eternity record with the goals per season set up by famous Gerd Müller in a very, very, decades ago. And everyone saw, Lewandowski's leaving the club and now everything will collapse, but it didn't. And he was scoring, he had a 4. He scored more than 40 goals in that season I'm talking about. So there is no automatic pattern in having a great striker and being successful. And obviously we make this measurable because the system simulates how a player performs with his teammates against 11 opponents. home matches, away matches, cold, heat, full stadium, empty stadium, stadium size, even the level of if you're on sea level or if you're playing like in Peru, if you're playing a couple of 1,000 feet above ground or above sea level. So the system takes it all into consideration. It takes I think 11 years of football into consideration, and then that's the outcome. But it's a heavy simulation. It's a lot of processing power, a lot of AI intelligence behind it. But then you see that.
That's fascinating. So another stat that caught my eye is that in terms of team success, only 10% is the coach and 90% is the team. And then if you have Pep Guardiola or you have Sir Alex Ferguson, that some might argue that they have a huge impact on the team. But you say that that's 10% and 90% is actually the roster.
Yeah, it's yeah. Okay, so first of all, no rule without an exception. So this is a general rule. So, and this is it needs a little bit of explanation. So on a 5-year span, the squad quality is the major impact in the club success. Nothing but squad quality. Now, on a 5-year span, the coach is indeed just 10%. On a yearly or on a seasonal, if you look into one season, obviously the coach's impact is enormous. Now, we measure coaches' performance, and we have a couple of overperforming coaches. Usually, this overperformance doesn't last longer than 12 months. You see that now, for example, in Germany, Alonso or Sebastian Hoeneß, which had outstanding performances last year, are going back to a little bit to normal again. Normal means we have a curve, and they are a little bit above the curve. So the two examples, Pep Guardiola and Sir Alex Ferguson, these are examples where they were also or that's my perception from the outside, they were heavily involved in the squad building process. So I'm very, very sure that Manchester United did not contract one single player which hasn't been given a thumbs up from Ferguson. And so that is a little bit, each case is a little bit special. But the general rule stands, and you only have a few coaches who stay in clubs that long. The usual coaches' contractual time is much, much shorter than these two outstanding examples. In each league, you have like one or two coaches who've been with the club for many, many years. They are the exception of the rule.
Yeah, there's always exceptions, of course.
But if you are a club and you are, planning the future of your club, then, your squad planner, the impact, because obviously all the financials depend on the success, either being relegated or promoted, reaching the European Cups, or even qualify for Champions League as a pinnacle. And then obviously that has a huge financial impact. And and then obviously also the whole atmosphere in the club, and the winning club is a lot more relaxed. It's a lot more, encouraged and determined. Now, this outcome is mainly driven by the squad planner. May it be the coach that, especially in English football, is often still united in one person. In, for example, German football or in Italian football, it's totally separated. So the squad planner or the squad planning or whoever takes the decisions about which players to contract, that is the way more important decision on a 5-year perspective.
Got it. So what's the feedback been like from the clubs who have been using these AI tools thus far?
That's a very good question. It reaches from absolute, this is all bollocks, to we had the latest club who took a board decision last week, actually. One of the clubs we've been working with for quite a while. They took a board decision that only players will be signed who match this, where the player score is good enough to make the club better within the frames we gave. So the range in such an early stage. This is an industry usually driven by people coming from the industry. You have very little outside in every league around the world. You have very little people who have not been, socialized and educated in the system. Most people have played football themselves, and then they left. They stopped their career, and then they become either coaches or sporting directors or even CEOs. So the system is pretty much funded on experience, and obviously this is very difficult to to overcome. So from total skepticism, total, meetings broken up after 5 minutes, this is all crazy, up to we do everything. Nothing will be done without you guys.
How do you convince these clubs? Is it? I mean, I guess that some people don't believe in it because maybe you are a little bit old-fashioned. You like your ways, but is it possible to still turn someone into to be pro AI in this case?
Yeah, it's and they become fanatics, I have to say, because because the system is really, I've been dealing in the past. I've had products which were okay, but which were not really, top notch. And here it is just mind blowing what we are able to do and how a club can benefit. Now, usually and I can understand, that people, it's first of all, it's AI, and then you have to overcome well-known routines and know-how you've gained for the last 20, 25, even 40 years. And then someone like myself is coming and say, hey guys, now everything is new and I show you how the world works. And obviously that's a very painful process. By the way, in every industry, it's not just football, it's in every industry the same. But football, obviously, because everyone is coming out of football and has been in the system for decades, it's extremely. But the thing is just showing the examples where we did well, and then obviously announcing something a year ago, and then it comes into reality. And then it's also a question country by country. Germany is very skeptical, which is kind of interesting. We Germans don't like German companies. We love American companies in terms of software. So in England, it's very open-minded. Sweden, 50-50. America is very open-minded. So it's really also different from country by country.
That's interesting. So you say US and Sweden maybe are more pro. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think Sweden has always been open-minded, but again, it's also in Sweden, it's a closed shop. I mean, how many people are working in Swedish football? Maybe 100. I mean, in decision-making positions, 100 people maybe, and they all know each other. And then to stick your head out as a first one is always. You really have to find a case where someone is really in trouble. That's our best case. Is where you're really in trouble. You have to change something. You lose a lot of money. You are way beyond expectations, or below expectations. Sorry, you're way below expectations. It has to fit for the first club. But then it's we're seeing it's getting better and better and easier, but it's still a persuasive process.
Yeah. So looking ahead now, what's next for Plaier AI?
So far, the tool is most likely used in scouting because that is the biggest part. So as a club, you can make you have two threats. One is a wrong transfer, and another one is an injury. That's the what's killing the money. So right now, the doing the right transfers, I think we cover that 100% with a very, very high accuracy. 9 out of 10 transfers are as we predict, so that's way higher than any human being. And the second part will be injury prediction. The prototypes are ready. We just need to validate the system. So that means you have two scenarios. Either the player will be, you have like a percentage over the player. Player will be injured in a certain amount of minutes or in the next games or whatever, and then reconvalescence scenarios. When does he come back to the pitch, etc., together with the practice data. And then the bigger part on the roadmap is tactical analysis. So how do you play? Because every scene in football has been played thousands of times, and we will compare these results and we'll tell you how to tactically approach this team. And last but not least, then in-game predictions will become more and more popular. Where to shoot the penalty, to give an advice to the goalkeeper, where is the penalty shooter shooting? Which impact does this substitute make when you bring him in the 60th minute or at this moment, and stuff like that. So these are the big areas in which we will develop software.
Interesting.
Yeah. It will change football dramatically. It will not change our way how we see it, but behind the scenes, it will change it dramatically. Like basically AI will change every industry. So that is not just football related.
For sure. I'm also interested in your journey and how's that been like? You've been in sports for 30 something years now, if I read correctly here. So you mentioned before you started in motorsport. So
Yeah.
how did you get into the sports industry? And if we can walk through your career journey up until today.
I've been a business major in university, and for me it was always clear that I end up in racing one day. It was basically I had a friend who, in the age of 14, told me that he wants to become a real estate agent, which he is as of today. And for me, it was always clear that I go into racing. And then right after university, I started in smaller junior formula teams. I started Formula Renault. That was very popular at the time. Kimi Räikkönen was promoted from Formula Renault to Formula One directly. I raced against, not as a driver, as a team manager, I raced against him. So I started in Formula Renault, and then I made my way up to Formula One. Spent a couple of years in Formula One, and then at the same time, I united with a large sports marketing company where I had my first touch points with football, or with football. It was a time when football marketing became massively interesting. Then we had in Germany World Cup 2006. I became self-employed. Then I was having quite a lot of rights on the not on the football World Cup, but I had a lot of involvement in the football World Cup with sponsors, and I was working for Philips. I was working for many sponsors in the World Cup, and then by coincidence, I became a startup founder, and so that was the second half of my career. So the first half was in racing and then in sports, and then I became a startup founder, and I've done that a couple of times, quite successful, and now I'm in AI since 2020. Also, everything by coincidence, um, um, not planned. I wish I had a strategic path to walk, but it was all coincidence. So that's how I ended in AI.
Big motorsport background there. So now with AI coming in, there was never an idea that maybe do this more on the motorsport side, or?
No, it is. That is my. If any Formula One team listens to this podcast, I still have a small company in the middle of Germany where we have developed a machine measuring the grip of tires in racing, because you always have a problem. You often hear that a driver gets out of the car, so I had a bad set of tires. Second set was much better. That is because of the production of the tire and the storage of the tire. The grip level changes. A little bit sunshine in the truck, and then the tire has a different grip level. Now we can measure this grip level. Unfortunately, we were supplying a major Formula One team, became world champion that year, but then the FIA has forbidden the machine, so it wasn't allowed to use this anymore. So we went to other racing series. But why do I say that? We can correlate all the data from the practice sessions and from the on the track, the live data and the past data, and we can correlate that and help making setup decisions much faster than the team. They all work overnight. You know that they have like data connections to the factory. 40 people are sitting there overnight and calculating it. We're very sure that we might make an impact. But there are only 10, now 11 teams. It's a very small market, and you have to really do a lot of. You have to find someone who's financing the prototype. But we would make a major impact in setup of Formula One for sure.
That's really interesting. And as you mentioned before, like you're chasing, what do you say, like a hundredth of a second there. So obviously the grip is of highest importance.
Yeah, and in football, probably a football player is the best tracked employee you have on the planet. So I think maybe pilots are as well tracked. But, a Formula One team is producing so much data, and it's so difficult to handle that. And obviously these engineers have highly sophisticated tools already in place, but with our pool, because we are so quick and so accurate, the biggest advantage for us or working with us is that due to the nature of how we use AI, we have the highest accuracy possible under these circumstances. So for a Formula One team working with us, they at least get a challenge how good they really are and how good their team is, so they can basically calibrate their own tools if they use tools, and I'm sure they do. They could calibrate it with us. So we'd make a high impact. And as you said, with that amount of data, just one one click on the damper, and then the whole thing goes halo. So that would be a great opportunity. But again, it's just 11 potential customers, and two people have to find each other, or two companies have to find each other, and sometimes it's just by coincidence.
For sure. So how are you juggling these different roles that you're having this company and also the Plaier AI? How do you get the day go by?
And 4 small children, so very, very difficult with 80-hour weeks, almost no sleep, and that's but it's so much fun because this is probably the best. It's very rare that in my age you find the best time of your career in the late stages of your career, and because I'm learning something, I would say, on a weekly basis, we get new insights. So the learning curve in the companies are so steep. And when we work for we have quite large US operations. When there's a new company onboarding, it doesn't matter in what industry, we always learn new stuff. I have a young kid from Switzerland who approached us with an art startup to connect AI with art. You work with these young kids who are determined, have great ideas. You learn from them. It's a fantastic time, to be really honest. And then time flies by, and you don't really feel the work.
Yeah, I understand. When you do something that you love, right? Then it's easier to work 80-hour weeks.
It's not work anymore. It's you're curious to learn. You see new stuff. Oh, it's so amazing. I just love it, I have to say.
I'm glad to hear that. But has there been any difficulties, bumps on the road in your career? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Yes, of course. I mean, things haven't worked out as I wanted. I think that's there have been a lot of, but the biggest bumps, I think, and that's probably counts for most of the people you will ask the question. The biggest bumps is when your own expectation does not match with the reality. So in my case, in my personal case, it was I always dreamt of, what my dream was to work in Formula One day, because I grew up, with the 80s with, Senna, Prost, wars and all that, now currently on Netflix again. So I grew up with it. And then the reality in Formula One, especially in the phase I was working in, with the end of cigarette money and then the start of a new era. I think working now in Formula One is a totally different ballgame compared to when I entered it. When I entered it, I found it very, very different from what I expected, and I was really, my illusions were, and that's really tough to when you've achieved something and then it's different from your thought. That was my biggest bump, to say.
To overcome that discrepancy in expectations and reality.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're really disappointed. Really, you say, I've been working now for 10 years to get here, and now I am here, and look at this. It's really, and obviously you over idolize things. You think that in Formula One, everything is perfect. Everyone is, the brightest mind on the planet. And they all cook with water. That's everywhere in the world. And in every company, in every sports, they all, there are some brilliant people everywhere, but there are normal people everywhere too. So it doesn't matter where you work. It will always be the same.
That's true. I hope that Formula One is listening, as you said before, but there are also a lot of younger people listening that they, maybe are early in their careers. So what would be some advice that you have for them, or someone who wants to work in the sports industry?
So that's an advice you probably hear from a lot of people, but it doesn't make it less true. The idea is an idea, but the execution is really what brings it to life. And the execution is hard work, hard work, hard work, and there is no shortcut. You can be lucky with the answer, like the Instagram or Snapchat people, but you can make billions in 6 months. But that is the exception. The rule is hard work. And then the second part is, and that's especially for me important, we have a saying in Germany: the soup is never eaten as hot as it was cooked, which means cool down, stay cool. React when it's time to react. Don't overreact. Don't react on everything. Find your own path, where you don't write an email to everyone who's writing you an email, where you don't answer everything. So stay cool, stay put, and observe. But then, if you act aggressively and act in a very, very, how do you say, in a very determined way to really get it done.
I like that. I'd like to finish up with a networking question. So I know you have been in sports for a long time. Is there someone from your network that you think would be a good guest on this podcast?
Yeah, I think one person I would love to see on your show. He's called Dr. Florian Roman. He's a lecturer at St. Gallen University. You know, we don't have a lot of elite universities in Europe, but I would consider St. Gallen as one of them in terms of business schools. And he has an in-depth know-how about the financials in sports, especially in football. I've never met someone who is financially as sophisticated as he is, and I would love to see him on this podcast. That would be really, really fun.
That would be fantastic. Jan, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Sports Management Podcast.
Marcus, thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.